Hi, and welcome to Web3 Unfiltered, the podcast that cuts through hype to explore what actually works in building modern businesses, AI tools, and emerging technologies. I am your host, Collins Odabi. Today's guest is Rion Westfall, founder, revenue growth strategist, and creator of the Own Your Revenue program. Rion has built 9 companies across various sectors and now helps founders implement predictable revenue infrastructure. In a world where many scale chaos, Rion actually scales margins. Today, we are deconstructing the mechanics of revenue, founder discipline, and the role of AI in making growth deliberate. Welcome to the show, Rion. How are you doing today?
Doing well, Collins. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
It's really great to have you, Rion. So today we are going to be talking about you. Let's start from there. I like to ask my guests to talk about themselves. What is your story? How did you get to where you are today?
Oh, my story. Everybody's story is unique, and I love my story just because it's mine, right? As a mechanical engineer and international business guy, I've, as you mentioned, I've been around the world. I've actually worked in 15 different countries. I've worked in Department of Defense, so doing missile work and things like that. I've done a whole bunch of different things in my life, and it's really a pleasure just to be able to share a lot of those experiences that I've learned. I come from a family that's very entrepreneurial, and so I grew up in an entrepreneurship environment from my grandfathers, my own fathers as serial entrepreneurs. And so I've always kind of had that entrepreneurial drive within myself. So I'm really keen on the founder spirit, and I'm passionate about growing there. Is part of my kind of what led me to what I do now is as I traveled, when I was traveling, doing that work internationally and in those 15 different countries, part of my responsibility was to go around and to perform audits and evaluations on businesses, to look inside, deep inside, to do an uncover of their operations, of their maintenance, of their HR systems, of how they were handling and running their organizations. And in doing that, sometimes those audits, those evaluations, they might take 4 days. Sometimes they might take 4 weeks. It just depended on the scope and how big the company was. As I did this for a number of years, over a decade, you pick up a few things. And one thing I began to recognize doing numbers and large numbers of these is different patterns. And those patterns led me to what I'm doing here today, is actually, like you said, own your revenue process. That's the title of my process, is to take ownership, to take control of your revenue and the things within your business that play a factor on your revenue. So today, like you said, that experiences, or those experiences, plus starting my own businesses, 9 of them to date, have really illustrated to me all of the different ways that businesses struggle, that businesses fail, where they can succeed, the gaps and the holes. And so a couple years ago, I decided that I would write my book. And that's what I decided to do. I decided to start writing my book. And in the process of that, I was looking for testimonials. So I started interviewing founders. And as I was interviewing these founders, a lot of them would come to me and they would share with me even more deeper insight through this process that I was refining with those interviews, which led me to even do more to help this process. And so actually here at the end of last year, I launched an app for the program that facilitates the growth and the aspect of our business and helping other business, facilitates the accountability found within businesses so that they can grow and scale faster and more efficient with less chaos while increasing their margins. So that's what led me to largely where I am right now here today. We continue to build out and we continue to grow and support the small businesses in those areas. One of the things that I see in businesses most often is they have trouble telling. It's difficult to tell which levers are going to get you a 2x or a 5x growth with the proper margins. So what happens is businesses end up scaling more chaos than they do profits. And what we do is we tactically hunt the revenue patterns that pull the right levers so that they add 7-8 figure growth in the next 12 months, with those margins intact. So businesses can rely on processes. They can rely on the ability in a system that's actually going to help them. One of the things that I often talk about and teach is about clarity. Clarity is power. The more clear that a company can get specifically right up front. For example, I will ask the question, what problem do you solve that no one else does? And oftentimes I'm met with a whole bullet list of, hey, we do this and we do this and we do that and we can do this and we can do that. Ultimately, if a business is not clear with the problem that they solve that nobody else does, then it's going to be very, very difficult to scale that, right? In order to scale something, you have to be very, very clear. It has to be just like Legos. Legos are a small little plastic piece, but their tolerances are very, very tight. That's why you can use them over and over and over and again, and you can build upon them. You can scale the growth. You can build anything you want because of the way that they are designed, for example.
All right. Absolutely amazing, Rion. Thank you so much. Okay. I actually love your story and it's very inspiring. How did you go from taking over a 30-year-old firm to tripling its size in just under 2 years?
At that point, my job, my business was, my consulting business was to perform the business development services for an international company. And in helping them grow and helping them become more, realizing that they'd been around for 30 years. They had had certain success, but they were very niche company in a very niche environment that kind of kept them stagnated where they were, again, for 3 decades, right? And one of the things that happened is, as I was coming on board, they were retiring their senior leader, their VP of business development. He was retiring after 10 years of working with the company. And as we were having our exchange and interchange of information as he was going out and I was coming in, he writes on a piece of paper, he lists 4 different names and he says, here's the potential projects you can chase. And as he has very minimal information about them, and he says, yeah, just contact them. They'll tell you what you need to know. He proceeds to leave. And as he's walking out of the room, he turns around and he says, well, good luck. You're not going to survive. And I thought about that and I thought, well, that's a pretty negative way to look at a business. And so I proceeded to say, well, I don't understand exactly how this business works from a revenue generation standpoint. So I went back to square one, and square one meant looking back over the history. I went back over the last 10 years of work and I saw all the proposals that they did. I created a giant spreadsheet. I pulled them all together and I outlined the clients that they were, the magnitude of the project. Was it a $50,000 project? Was it a $5 million project? What size project was it? And what the time frame was, how long it took to propose on the project, and from that point to winning the project, what countries, what areas, what materials, what the clients or customers, what materials they made as a manufacturing facilities. I looked at all of those different metrics. And what I was trying to do is I was trying to find the patterns. Where were they successful? And where were they not successful, right? Because the areas where they were not successful are areas that I didn't want to keep trying for. I didn't want to bark up those trees. And so I focused in exactly on the areas that they were most fruitful in actually winning and achieving and helping their clients when they were being hired and under those conditions. And then I started looking for the clients and the situations that mimicked those markers. And as we did so, as I started dedicating my time to the things that I knew that worked historically, I was able to do more in those realms than what had previously been done. And at the same time, that rate of win, that rate of award continued to come forward. And we were able to, like you said, within 2 years, we were able to triple the size of the company and the works that we were producing. So again, by finding patterns, in that case, the specific patterns in regards to proposal writing and proposal issuing and how those proposals were awarded, by focusing on those and refining that process and saying no to the other projects that I knew historically were not good fits for us, we were able to, within those couple of years, we were able to triple the size of the company.
Wow, it is amazing how you were able to move from survival to 3x expansion by identifying specific patterns. This suggests that growth isn't really about doing more, it's about choosing better. So when you're looking at multiple companies or scaling multiple companies, how do you decide which growth lever to pull first?
Oh, which lever to pull first? I love that topic. Knowing which levers to pull, largely, most of my clients, and my clients will range anywhere from solopreneurs all the way through, 150, 200 people, 200 employees in the business. And one thing that I've found when you're trying to grow and expand, whatever you are, both your good stuff and your bad stuff will scale the same. So typically, if 50% of your business is operating well and 50% of it is operating poorly, just because you go from 1 million to 2 million or 2 million to 5 million or 5 million to 10 million, just because you grow in numbers and top line revenue, that never equates to growth in margin. Usually what I end up finding is those negative aspects, unless they're being addressed, those negative aspects, those issues, the chaos within your company will actually scale faster than the success of your company, unless you actually have a system in place for correcting it. So what I like to do is I like to look at margins. I like to see, okay, where are, not just financially, but where's the pain with our process? We might find that up front in the sales department and winning projects, getting out in front of people. We might find it in how we actually convert those interactions. We might find it in how clients are onboarded to us. It might be in the fulfillment. Maybe we've got some issues with our fulfillment and being able to do projects on time or adequate work that is up to the quality that a customer would expect. Maybe we're actually losing it on the back end, so that client is either not coming back to us or is coming back to us and bringing their friends, right? So the aspect of your business could be found in many different ways where you have chaos. Chaos always comes with consequences. And if we scale chaos, that chaos flows with us regardless. So I like to go through and take, even if it's a quote, good operating company, let's make it better. Let's make it more efficient. Let's look for the patterns, the levers inside our business that are robbing our profits, that are taking away from us. I'll give you an example here. Actually, this morning, I was with a customer of mine. To give you some magnitude, they've got just shy of 100 employees. They're doing about $40 million a year. And they have an office staff of 4. They got an office staff of 4 people to handle things like the payrolls and the invoicing and the APAR, those types of things. And I sat down with him today as a group, and as we started going through, we had a small amount of time where I said, "Hey, we're gonna go on a discovery trip." And when I call discovery trips, that's when we're actually going on the hunt. We're looking for patterns. And the Own Your Revenue process has very specific questions that we go through to help uncover what those patterns are. And as we went through, we found 4 different patterns. And those 4 patterns, as we dug deeper into those 4 patterns, once we quantified what those patterns meant to us from a revenue standpoint, the girls that I was with, they realized that those 4 patterns accounted for about $840,000 a year. And one of the girls just looked at me. I asked her, I said, "How does this make you feel?" Once she saw the number, and she said, "That makes me sick to my soul." and so much so, they have a business that's been operating for almost 25, 28 years. And as she was looking at it, as they're wanting to grow and expand their business, they realize we've got this chaos behind us. We've got these points that are just really causing negative aspects. We know what they are. We have a general idea, but we've never quantified them. We don't know how much they actually mean to us. In this case, these 4 patterns accounted for, again, $840,000 a year. And okay, now that we've identified it, what are we going to do to actually start solving these? So one of the things that is absolutely critical for any business is time, right? Time is something that they're not making anything more of, and we all get the same allotment every day. Our businesses and ourselves as individuals, we only have so much of it. So really what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, how can we do more with the time that we are given, the time that we are allotted? Because if we can't figure out a way to do more, then that's the opposite of scaling. We can't scale, we can't grow if we can't figure out how to do more or be more efficient with the time that we've given. And at the same time, businesses, for those of you that have run your own business, like what you were saying, Collins, is if you've ever been on that end of the stick where you don't have the funds for payroll, and maybe you've got to borrow a little bit more credit, and maybe it was month 1 and month 2, maybe it's been 3 months, 4 months, 5 months since you've actually even paid yourself because you're just trying to keep your business up and running. Time is critical for founders, for entrepreneurs. You lose 1 month, you lose 2 months, you lose 3 months, you lose 5 months. You don't make that up. There's no such thing as saying, okay, I lost 2 months, the last 2 months, it's, now the end of February, I'm going to make up those 2 months in the next month. It doesn't work that way. You can't do twice the amount in March to make up for the previous month that you lost. So in businesses, it's very, very critical that we're doing things in our businesses that help us speed up our time, that help us actually engage and get to our results faster than we otherwise would. I have another client of mine. He's actually he's a retired NFL football player. So he spent 5 years in the pros, and he had this business idea that he wanted to bring to life here about a year and a half ago. And so we got talking here a couple months ago, and he says, I want to do this, but I just don't know how. I'm unsure how to do this. I'm unsure how to do that. And he made the right decision. As a founder, one of the greatest things you can do to the speed of your business is hire a coach, hire a mentor, someone who's been there. Leverage, right? We're talking about pulling levers that allow you to add revenue to 2x, to 3x, to 4x your business. The lever that you have to pull is someone else's time, someone else's experience. If you pull the right lever with someone else's time, with someone else's experience, that means their knowledge, their experience, the things that it took them months, years, maybe even decades to learn, you're going to learn in a matter of days or weeks. And so one of the best things any founder can do, and I highly recommend it, whether it's me or whether it's anybody else, is finding the appropriate mentor, finding the appropriate coach, whatever you want to call them, that is going to help you and guide you through a process so that you save time, so that you make up on the time that you're otherwise going to lose just doing it trial and error.
Oh, wow. Absolutely amazing, Rion. Choosing the right lever is a strategic win, yeah, but most founders get distracted by the day-to-day. And with your expertise, you've been able to help founders know when they're actually working on revenue or just busy with activity. I feel activity is often just a mask for lack of process. Sometimes the biggest shifts don't require more efforts, they just require more precision. And that precision is what creates the foundation for your revenue framework. So let's talk about the actual infrastructure required to make that repeatable. What is the concept behind own your revenue, and why do most small and medium businesses fail at it?
The concept behind the own your revenue process is first to become very clear in why your business exists. If it's not clear to you, it will not be clear to your employees, and it definitely will not be clear to your customers. That's the first step. Second is understanding that every business, every industry has patterns. And the quicker you follow those patterns, the better possibility, the better probability of success your business has. It's kind of like building a puzzle. If you've ever gotten one of those puzzles and you've got 500 pieces, one of the first things you do is, one, you find all the edge pieces, find the 4 corner pieces, you put them onto one side, and then you group like colors. Hey, here's all my reds over here. Here's all my blues over here. Here's all my greens, because you know on the picture that there's a segment of it that's red and a segment that's blue and a segment that's green. So you group these things, you find the patterns so that you can narrow down and better organize the tasks that are in front of you. So the own your revenue process is doing that same one. We group. We've got 7 different categories. I have an acronym. I call it PEPSLIM, PEPSLIM, which stands for people, equipment, process, strategy, leadership, inventory, money. Every business can be broken down into these groups, into these areas. What are the patterns we see in our process? What are the patterns we see in our strategy, our leadership? What are the things? And as you start diving into the nuts and bolts of a company and how it's acting, and I have a host of questions that we ask that help uncover this, because we really go on a hunt. We're trying to hunt the revenue patterns. We're trying to categorize and group and understand the magnitude of these patterns and how it reflects either negatively or the opportunity that is still in front of us for our business, most of the time, I find that we hit anywhere from 40 to 60% of your existing revenue. Okay. Most of the time we find that in patterns in the very first session, within the very first, I'll call it 45 days of working together. We will find and identify and quantify all of this. And then it's okay, how do we start adjusting the culture? Because right now we have a culture that has a certain amount of chaos, that has a certain amount of loss. What we really want to do in our business is develop a revenue first mindset, that we have a revenue first culture in our business so that everyone's looking out for the revenue of the company. And this could be top line, it could be bottom line, and bottom line means you're looking, at how much expenses and the chaos and everything that you're losing out to. So the concept behind Own Your Revenue is, one, being able to identify it, and then second, the process to actually recover. And we already spoke about time, right? It's one thing to pop up and to say, hey, how do I, now that I've identified, in the example of the ladies in payroll and accounts payables, we identified $840,000 in 4 different patterns that they were struggling with, or opportunities that were in front of them that were not being realized. How do we fix that? And I asked them the question. I said, from a process standpoint, what is the difference between a McDonald's Big Mac and a Bugatti race car? And they started laughing, and they said, well, one is really, really cheap and kills you, and the other one is really, really expensive that you can't afford, but you'd love to drive. I said, yes, that is true, but they both have processes. They both have procedures, exactly how to make it. And in that case, when you do that, you can scale procedures. Most companies shy away from SOP, standard operating procedures, but without them, it is near impossible to scale effectively. Without them, when a business tries to scale, they're going to scale more chaos than they are profits. And that is just the truth. So the concept behind Own Your Revenue is to, hey, how do we now start implementing that? How do we start building this culture, this revenue first culture, where we're actually realizing these identifiers, these pieces that we've identified, that we're realizing them in a very short period of time. We're talking days and weeks. We're not waiting quarters before we start realizing something. We want results, and we want them now. So the Own Your Revenue process, the concept behind it is, one, to do all this and then to do it extremely fast and efficient, to move faster than the company probably has ever moved before. And so the app helps design, helps keep track and accountability for all of this, so that you can realize the type and style of business that you're actually looking for.
Wow. So failure usually comes from flying blind. You've mentioned clarity. You've mentioned identifying the issues. So failure usually comes from flying blind. One needs to have clarity and know why his or her company exists. Founders need to know why their company exists so that their employees can run with that vision. Amazing. In Web3, we value on-chain transparency, where the data is the truth. So how does building an operational dashboard create that same level of truth inside a traditional company?
There's no escape, Collins. There's no escape. When it's written in front of you, there's no escape, right? I have a phrase: if it's not written down, it's a liability. If it is written down, it's an asset. And in business and in life, do you want more liabilities or do you want more assets? Most founders will tell you, I need assets, not liabilities.
So you need to write them down. Are you talking about data here?
Yes, the data, the process, procedures, being able to see it. I'd love to show anyone the dashboard so that you can see examples of how other companies, I mean, it's got pie charts, it's got colors, it's got numbers, it's got names, it's got everything associated with the company to be able to realize real results. Like I said, in days, not in quarters, not in years. It's not just a high level strategy session. This is tactical hunt for finding those patterns and realizing them in real life and being able to pull those together. The dashboard keeps it exactly right in front of you, just like a dashboard. When you're driving, you have a dashboard in front of you so that you can see all the relevant and pertinent information all the time. That's exactly what this. Why would you operate your company without being able to see certain critical things? Why would you drive without seeing your speed? Why would you drive without seeing the temperature gauges or RPMs of your engine? There's certain things you're always going to want to be aware of and seeing. So in this case, most companies don't have that. They don't see that. They don't know it. They don't know what it feels like. They can't keep track of it. As mentioned, they can't tell which levers are going to get them 2x or 5x growth with the proper margins. And if you can't tell which levers those are, then blindly, you're just going to be pulling levers. And eventually, yes, you'll scale, but you're probably going to scale more chaos than you will profits. And that's a bad thing for business.
Wow, what an eye-opener, Ryan. Once you have the data, you can stop guessing. But then data can be rigid. When designing these revenue processes, how do you balance that need for predictability with the flexibility needed for a change in markets?
As fluid as individuals are and as fluid as markets are, the beauty of a system that allows you to adapt on the go, it allows you to assess patterns. As those patterns change, absolutely, you get to change your approach. So as fast as your mind can conceive the changes is really as fast as the system will. I mean, you're driving it, just like a car. If you see something, a deer comes into the road, you're either going to slow down, you're going to put on the brakes. If there's something in the road, you're going to turn away from it so you don't run over it and do damage to the vehicle. The same thing goes for business. We're flying down the road and we want the most safety measures we can, but at the same time, we want to be able to maneuver. We want to be able to speed up or slow down as needed. So the dashboard actually enables all of that. It enables the constant review and update by individuals, as well as, hey, we're going to shift here. We're going to modify here. We're going to perform this function in the next 2 weeks and be done with it in 2 weeks. We're not going to take 2 months or half a year to get something done. We're going to be able to execute and improve on certain aspects within days, within weeks. And so the whole program is very miraculous in what it allows businesses to do on a 24/7 basis. There's no end to the progression. It's kind of like our artificial intelligence, right? As we keep putting more information into it, it allows us to continually adapt.
So you're saying it's a delicate balance. When that balance breaks, the results are usually messy. I'm sure you've had a lot of experiences and real-world scenarios where a lack of revenue infrastructure caused chaos, and I'm sure you fixed them very well, just like the one you explained earlier. So fixing chaos usually requires better tools. You did mention that you've just launched a dashboard app to solve this. So let's talk about the role of the newest tool in the shed, artificial intelligence. How does AI fit into the revenue systems you're building today?
AI fits into it. One, I am in the process of building additional tools that will enable AI, one, to look at what's been inputted by the company, by the founders, by the leaders of the company. As they input the information, it will be able to see. And what AI does is AI allows us to process things faster, right? But in the end, AI is only doing what we tell it to do. It's only as good as the information that it's given. Right now, I am developing what I call my Rybot, a little play off my name. The name may change, but I have gone through all of my previous podcasts and over 500 coaching sessions wherein it's pulling that information of the topics and the questions and the stories and the comments and everything that we've discussed in all of those hundreds of meetings. And it's pulling that information together to be able to support very specifically this process. It's not just some foreign, hey, I'm going to use ChatGPT and it's going to give me generic answers. This is very, very specific to the process. At the same time, I recognize your question about how does AI play into this. Founders, and depending on how long you've been around, AI has only really started taking off in, say, the last 5 years. Kind of prior to that, it wasn't at the forefront. People were talking about it, but adaption of it or adoption of AI really started here about 5 years ago with COVID and everything like that. People started looking more into it. And we have, as founders, we have 3 choices to make. One, we can go through and try and learn how to do it all of ourselves. 2, we can hire someone to implement or put it in for us. Or 3, we can ignore it completely. And I don't advise the last one because your business needs it. It needs those tools. But if you're anything like me, I spent almost 2 decades doing my entire career without AI. So to certain degrees, I've got to learn new skills. Me personally, I have to upskill my abilities to, one, work with the technology, develop the technology so that it's working and serving me. And that's actually one of the things that we're doing in part with the Own Your Revenue process, is we actually will be offering that availability to individuals of companies, to them and their own staff, to be able to upskill, to be able to learn how to do some of these AI tech things that they need to do, to be able to do them in-house, to build your skill level up enough so that you can do them and not always have to rely on someone else's programming or a third party always coming in and trying to have you do this. So that's how we're addressing AI at the moment.
So essentially, AI acts as a signal booster for the data you already have. Many founders try to automate everything to avoid human error, similar to how Web3 builders use smart contracts. And efficiency is great, yeah, but over automation can kill a brand's soul. Are there processes that shouldn't be automated, and how do you decide?
Yes, I mean, automation, delegation, deletion, ADD, and choosing what processes to automate, when to delegate, or when to delete. That's an ongoing process all the time in business. It's never going to stop choosing and making those decisions. Those factors are very, very dependent around the impact that they either are having or will have on the business. And those evaluations really have to be seen for, hey, whatever type of automation that you're trying to put in, How is this going to be taken? And this is where having that skill set, knowing and more about being able to do some of your own automation is very valuable, because you understand a little bit more of the background behind it. But yes, AI is definitely one of those patterns. Being able to understand its ramifications to your business, both pro and con to your business, that's definitely part of the evaluations that founders have to make.
Interesting. So keeping it human is a choice. You've managed this across 15 countries. How do founders maintain high performance across global teams while keeping the system simple enough to actually manage?
Simply human contact. When we're dealing with people, we need to deal with people. Oftentimes I see communication being an issue. We need to know that there's a human on the other side, and that human can have good days, that human can have bad days, and there's nothing wrong with that. As we work with humans, just maintaining communication, building those relationships, and we have to know how to build personal skills, be in control of our own minds, of our own thoughts, so that we're a benefit to the people that are around us and not a detriment. And if that comes from the leadership, then it's going to trickle down in through the company. And part of that is supported, as we previously talked about, by having that revenue first mindset. When people have a certain mindset, they're looking for growth, they're looking for opportunities. And once you get out of that phase where you're just trying to put out fires and everyone is pulling toward a destination instead of just trying to get away from one, that's where those relationships can really begin to flourish.
Thank you, Rion. Thank you so much. You mentioned the type. It actually requires a certain type of leader. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Yeah, that's what I got. One of the things I got from what you just explained. Maintain human relationships also and build on them. And this usually requires a specific type of leader. In your experience, what mindset separates companies that scale successfully from those that plateau?
The mindset it revolves all around clarity. And being able to say no, controlling your thoughts. When I work with my clients, we have whole segments where we designate to thought control, to subconscious, working on your subconscious and understanding how do you become a better person? How do you control the use of your time? Do you hold the fact that you work 70 hours a week as a trophy? Well, that's not healthy for you, and it's definitely not healthy for your business. And okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to change? If you want other people to change and be better, then that also goes for the leadership. The leader has to lead the way in doing those things and making those changes, controlling their thoughts, controlling their mindset, controlling their different pieces.
Thank you so much, Rion. This has been an incredibly grounded session. Yes, and so we'll be rounding up here. That wraps up today's episode of Web3 Unfiltered. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and keep building.